So I realized I didn't do a video just being given the basic information in regards to what's taken place on the George Floyd case. A few developments have taken place over the course of the last day or so. So let's just go through them. This is Derek Chauvin. He looks different now because he's in a prison jumpsuit. The last time you saw Chauvin, he was kneeling on a man on his throat for roughly 9 minutes, casually, as if it was the most normal thing in the world, until that person expired. That person, all life fell out of that person. And even after that person basically expired, Chauvin kept his knee on his throat for another 2 minutes. Chauvin knew George Floyd. Apparently they worked as bouncers in the same place. And makes it that much more disgusting, right? I mean, it's one thing if the cop is rolling up on a random person that he's murdering and treating that inhumanely, as if who he was engaging with wasn't a person that had feelings and people who loved him and cared about him and things that they might have wanted to do with the rest of their life. No, he treated them as if somebody he could just treat any way that he wanted to. It wasn't a person that was laying under him. It was something that he could subjugate. And since 99% of the people that cops kill, they get off, he probably thought he was perfectly emboldened by the non-accountability in our justice system. So in this very specific case, Chauvin killed him. Now, Derek Chauvin, the charges have been increased. Ellison increased the charges second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. The top murder charge carries a maximum prison sentence of 40 years if he's convicted. Now, Ellison added the second murder charge against Chauvin yet on Wednesday when he lodged a complaint or when he lodged the charges against the other 3 men. Now, the other 3 people who officers philosophically bound to protect and serve, who did not serve or protect the individual that was being murdered by their partner. And again, something that's normal. It takes place all over the world or all over the United States, where the cop kills his partners are standing right there with him for reasons of peer pressure and, for that matter, solidarity with the people in blue. Not to mention, the last thing you want to do is be out on the call where it's you as your partner, and maybe you said things or you backed up people as opposed to backing up your boys in blue and you were out there by yourself. I guess my point is there are all sorts of pressures and incentives for these guys to basically fall in line and back the other people who are in their department and to back the people who are around them as they flagrantly abuse the rights of the civilian population. In this case, these 3 are the criminals. These 3 men stood there kneeling on George Floyd as he gasped and begged for 9 fucking minutes for breath, saying that he couldn't breathe. But they couldn't be bothered to basically stop the partner who was murdering George Floyd. These 3 men have been getting bail conditions of $1 million. Now, right here, those bail conditions include not working in law enforcement capacity, surrendering any firearms, voiding their firearm permits, having no contact with Floyd's family, and agreeing to waive extradition should they leave the state of Minnesota. One catch with that. That should also include Amy Klobuchar. Meaning Amy Klobuchar should also not have any contact with his family. If we're going to say that these officers are accomplices because they stood by and allowed this loaded gun of a man, Chauvin, to murder George Floyd, then what the fuck about Klobuchar? Klobuchar, just like many of these other DAs all across the United States, had a cop that they knew was a problematic cop. If you even want to go back to Eric Garner, Daniel Pantaleo, the one who murdered him with an illegal chokehold, had also violations on his record, putting him up in the 1 or 2 percentile of violent cops in that state. He still kept his job. This is the point that I'm making here. The fact that people like this keep their jobs when these guys are either murdering or abusing, or there are complaints against these guys, especially when there are complaints that are prodigious in their numbers. It is only a matter of time till those people get to the point where they're going to dispense maximum justice with the complete expectation that, like the 99 other percent of other cops, they're going to get off. It's fucking aggravating to me that this is allowed. The hearing in Hennepin County District Court came a day after Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison charged the 3 men. One is J. Alexander Koenig, 26, Thomas Lane, 37, and Tao, 34, with aiding and abetting both second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. The trio assisted Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin in arresting the 46-year-old Floyd on May 25th on suspicion of making a purchase with a counterfeit $20 bill. $20 bill. Think about that. The video that you saw with that man putting the entire weight of his body on another man's throat and shocked as shit that that man didn't die. Do you know, you might not have known this, George Floyd apparently had COVID-19 the month prior. Whatever his issues, clearly he was alive, he was talking, he was well, he was ambulatory, up until the point where several cops tied his arms behind his back, put their knee on his throat, and as he begged and pleaded for life, stood there, not doing anything, not rendering assistance, not even checking to see if the man was still alive. They murdered a man in broad daylight with a ton of people watching, with the video cameras on it. But a $20 bill, a forgery charge on a $20 bill. You know, they accuse Garner of basically selling loose cigarettes. Does that necessitate maximum justice? Think about what we're saying for the moment. You have a situation where you're engaging somebody over something as trivial on some petty-ante shit like that. Think of all the money that is looted from the Treasury. Think of the money that goes into politicians' pockets when these guys are greasing the wheels of Wall Street, when they're committing these crimes, these white-collar crimes that don't get prosecuted, that nobody pays any attention to at all. But no, the $20 bill that demands maximum justice, where they can literally kill a man casually and shock the shit that people actually was bothered and concerned by the fact that they just murdered a man. When they murdered Tamir Rice, 13 years old, 2 seconds getting out the car, no charges, none. It fit within that, within those other tens of thousands, the 99% of cops that get off. This is not justice. This is a prosecution. There's a difference in those things. And even in the context of the prosecution, they still have to win the prosecution. It is not a foregone conclusion that these guys are going to get prosecuted or that the prosecution is going to win. This is not a foregone conclusion. Cops get off all the time. So we'll see. I'll keep you up to date on what is taking place in regards to the development of this case. But as is, this is where we are. These guys have been charged with aiding and abetting second-degree and third-degree murder. And in the other case, aiding and abetting second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter, with Chauvin, again, being charged with second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Look, justice, again, is when this doesn't happen. That's what justice is. When there's not this disparity in the number of people get killed, with blacks making up 13% of the population, but like 24% of the people police murder. Or for that matter, the dispensation of force applied to a certain demographic of the population in higher numbers. Or for that matter, larger prison sentences or longer prison sentences. Like, justice is when that doesn't happen, when that skew doesn't exist in your system, when your country gets to the point of saying, we're sick and tired of this continuously happening, we need to do something about this. This is the last straw. That's when justice takes place. Nobody in their right mind, at least not the majority of the people, would argue on behalf of rape. Why not? Because at a certain point, people got to the point of realizing, yeah, that's probably shouldn't be allowed. Same thing with this. Your police should not be unhinged and violent towards the population that police is supposed to be protecting and serving. As an African American, I would like to be able to use the police also if something is going wrong. I would like to be able to call them if somebody was breaking into my house, if I felt myself in danger. Do you think I would think twice? You goddamn right I would. I've seen enough cases where the cops go after the person who calls as opposed to the person who they are calling on. Even in the protests, we've seen that take place. So, look, my very basic point is that these guys have been charged. Good. But don't mistake a charge or prosecution for justice. Justice is when this is not prevalent, when 1,000 people aren't being killed by police, when cops aren't behaving in the way that they're behaving at these protests. Justice is when people aren't being choked to death with a cop not being prosecuted. Justice is something else. This is just a prosecution. But hopefully, it's one that wins. Like, share,